Greetings, world history students. This video is pertaining to the lesson for May 5th and May 6th, depending on your period. Basically, you should have already read your lecture notes from page 2 in the packet, slides 9 to 15. I know this didn't look good. If you want to go back and change it like this, that'd be good. Have the Axis countries and the Allied countries listed. Sorry about that. That was just a digital issue. You might want to clean that up and go redo slide 9. Anyway, after you read that, you should complete World War II Quiz 2, then submit that here. That is what you're going to submit for this assignment. But you should do all of it because all the learning is going to count come test time. So you can either make a new document titled World War II Quiz 2, or you can open up the one you did already and just do Quiz 2 on there. I don't really care. But after you finish reading it, you should be going back to your lecture, and you should be able to open this up from the links. See the links here. This gives you this lecture. And it's somewhere around slide 19. So just answer each question. It's a little bit longer because there's been no digital responses. Hopefully you watched all the videos that went with it. I think they're pretty good. I took the time to go through to make sure they're working. Do look at the websites, do all those things as you go along. Okay, back to the directions. Once you finish that, go ahead and submit it. And then turn to page 7 in your packet. Page 7 in your packet should look like this. Too far. Should look like this. D-Day, War in the Pacific, Atomic Bomb Lecture. Go ahead and pause this video at this time and just go ahead and fill in the notes. Just fill in the notes. When you finish filling out the notes for this whole page, turn this video back on. Then I'll read through each one. So as I'm reading through it, you can focus on what I'm saying and look at the clips as needed. If you want to do it as it's going, it's okay, but it'd be better to do it in increments because we have the time. And this lesson day is not that long. Okay, so now I'm going to just go on to the lecture. You should pause when you need to, this video, and look at things when you need to. Okay, there's going to be some little lines that I'm not going to be able to read, but it's okay, you can read it. As the war went forward, the Allies did start to turn the tide. Did start in Stalingrad, but then it continued at D-Day. June 6, 1944 is the invasion of Normandy. Normandy is a beach in France. You see it here. It was codenamed Operation Overlord. I did some research on trying to figure out what the D stood for in D-Day. It doesn't really stand for anything, but I like to think of it as Departure Day. That's the day the Allies went. The Allies forces landed on Normandy beaches in northern France. But there was an issue whether they're going to be able to do it because the weather was not good. And so this is when meteorology started to take leaps forward, because they can only land like once or twice a month at high tide because these ships had a big draft, meaning they needed some deep water. See how big these ships are? So they had pretty much a 3-day window every month. And to attack too late was the problem, just like the problem that Napoleon and Hitler had in Soviet Union. The Allies didn't want to make that a problem by starting their campaign too late in the season. But there was a major fear of postponement, and Stalin was giving a lot of pressure, saying you need to get in there. Turns out the invasion did catch the Germans by surprise. One of the reasons why it caught them by surprise was for every night for days on end, the Allies would ramp up the radio traffic. Why? Because when the radio traffic goes up, it was often a precursor to invasion. But they did this so often, it felt like crying wolf. So when they actually increased the radio traffic to invade, it wasn't so noticeable. In addition, there's a false rumor that there's going to be an attack at Calais. You look at these maps. Calais is kind of right here, I believe. Normandy is like right here, I think. I think Normandy is right there. Yeah, that's Calais right there. The Normandy is more here, this little curved shape, I think right here. So Calais made a lot of sense for people, but turns out they didn't attack there. Almost 3 million troops crossed the English Channel, and it was a big production. This is a very famous picture. If you ever seen Saving Private Ryan or Call of Duty, you see this image. It was a lot of logistics involved. See these things in the ground that look like little stars? That was designed to keep the ships from landing there. And to a degree, it does, and that's why they're in these little small ships. If you see the first scene in Private Ryan, see exactly what it was like. It was pretty deadly, these attacks. Sorry, I got something in my eye. Um, in this invasion, they named each beach uh, Sword, Juno, Gold, Utah, Omaha, and Point the Hawk are some of the key names. Utah Beach and Omaha were the American ones, and they're the two deadliest ones. Um, Churchill described D-Day as the greatest amphibious operation in history, meaning sea to land operation. And it pretty much is, as far as I know. I don't know if anyone knows bigger. Gallipoli was an attempt, but that one failed, so we didn't talk about it as much. Um, but there were heavy casualties on both sides. That the Allies lost 37,000 and 154,000 wounded. Axis powers lost about 200,000 killed, and another 200,000 prisoners were wounded. And what happened is, on the start of the battle, the paratroopers landed, and they were placed behind the enemy lines, and the Navy started firing, and then the airplanes came and attacked, and then they came in with the landing. Utah Beach was not really good because see how they can hit them on the flank. That's why it was so deadly. Because Utah got exposed, it opened up Omaha. There's a lot fewer casualties over in this region. But D-Day was successful. It worked eventually, but it was not clear that it was going to work, despite the amount of resources put into it. We know it caught the Germans by surprise because their leader, a guy named Erwin Rommel, the tank commander in North Africa of the Panzers, he was in charge of the Western Sea, the northern approach for the Allies. And he was out at some conference, maybe some party. And so, because he wasn't there, we know the Germans were surprised. Shifting. While the war in Europe was happening, there was also a war in the Pacific. And what really brought America into the war was Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese attacked America in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Roosevelt declares it a date which will live in infamy. That means it's famous for negative reasons. The next day, the U.S. declared war on Japan, Germany, and Italy. Interestingly, you had the highest number of volunteers ever for American military service on that day. The Battle of Midway meant that the U.S. would stop the Japanese offensive in the Pacific. Basically, we learned of their attack because we broke their code, and the Japanese got overextended, and boom, and their troops got nailed. The Japanese naval fleet suffered heavy losses. The Battle of Midway was a turning point for the Pacific campaign. There are some pictures. The top two are of, I think these all might be Pearl Harbor. Let's see this video clip. See if it works. Commercial. Don't skip the commercial. Okay, it's got a 2-minute clip here on Pearl Harbor. Go ahead and play it and pause me. And then when you're done playing it, go ahead and unpause me. Let's just tell you about Pearl Harbor. But now that you've unpaused me, go ahead and play the Midway one. Go ahead and watch that. When you're done watching that, go ahead and unpause me. I'm going to keep going on to slide 19. Um, One key strategic element for the American Navy in the Pacific was this island hopping campaign. The idea was take the islands you could and then make it easier to attack the next island, with the Japan island as the end game. Getting Japan was the end game. But the thinking was you don't have to fly too far to attack. So we'll use these as jumping off points to Japan. And it pretty much worked. After Midway, America started making headway this direction and this direction. But there was a big cost to these battles. For instance, in the Philippines, uh, America had to withdraw in April 1942, and they suffered a defeat at a place called Bataan. And there's this infamous mistreatment of American and Filipino soldiers called the Bataan Death March. I'd like you to see about it by watching this clip right here. Okay, it looks like this is not going to tell you that much about the Death March. But anyway, the soldiers are forced to march like 60 miles. I don't know, it might tell you a little bit about it. After the defeat and withdrawal of the bulk of the American forces. But a bunch of American forces are there too still. So American and Filipino soldiers are marched about 60 miles through the jungle and pretty much given no food or water. The Filipino people actually came out and gave them food and water, which kind of shows you what kind of people they are, because they were at risk of getting harmed by the Japanese military themselves, some of them more, but they kept coming to try to help. Eventually, when MacArthur left, he didn't really want to leave, but he promises in a speech, he says, I shall return. And in February 1945, about 3 years later, he does return to the Philippines with 250,000 men and frees it, Japan. And so that was a big issue. Um, anyway, a lot of these battles started getting pretty deadly. Truman thought using the atomic bomb, would end the war quickly and save 1 million American lives and really 2 million Japanese lives too, though that was a lesser factor. There was a concern that the Axis powers were close to developing a bomb. The US gave a warning to the Japanese that said they should surrender or face prompt and utter destruction. The Japanese government still didn't respond. Today, there's still a lot of debate on whether the bomb should have been dropped or whether a second bomb was necessary at all. I can tell you this: Iwo Jima and Okinawa were deadly. At Okinawa, they were so brainwashed that Americans would torture. There was this mass civilian suicide. These are all corpses, all bones of people that jumped off a cliff because they thought American troops would torture them and rape them and do all kinds of awful things. I don't think they would have, but that was the concern. August 6, 1945, Truman orders the bombing of Hiroshima. 170,000 people are killed instantly. August 9, 1945, U.S. drops an atomic bomb at Nagasaki. 80,000 are killed instantly. August 15, 1945, Japan surrenders. So it does work. Was a second bomb necessary? I don't know. We do know that World War II is the deadliest war in history. 60 million are dead, mostly civilians. This includes the death tolls from the Holocaust and the atomic bombs. Okay, let's see if this video works. Yeah, you should watch that video and then unpause. Last slide. Watch these clips on the atomic bomb, then respond to those two questions. I think you have a video about the harm done. These are opinion questions. You can say whatever you think. Was the first bomb, can you separate them too? Maybe you can. I don't know. But that's for you to decide. That's all I have. If you have any questions about anything you saw there, go ahead and send me an email. Looks like the first video doesn't work. Let's see if the second one works. Like the second video works. Just watch that one. Tells you a little bit about what happened and see some of the harm caused. After you watch that video, I think that's it for today's lesson. That should be enough. Thanks for watching this clip and doing all the work.